Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the show. It's time for my next interview. As always, I'm your host, Scott Fullerton, and today I'm thrilled to have a very special guest with us. He's an incredibly talented actor and co-star of the new web series Marriage of Inconvenience. It premiered this month on the streaming service Deku. The series was created by the multi-talented writer, director, and co-star Jason Gaffney, who we had on a couple of weeks ago. And the series is really making waves and capturing hearts with its unique blend of kind of comedy, drama, and romance, all kind of rolled into 6 episodes with more to come. It's so much more fun. And he plays kind of the wound-up character in what's being called an homage to The Odd Couple. So he steers from funny to poignant and all the emotions in between. So please join me in giving a big Left of Str8 welcome for the first time to the fantastic Mr. David Singletary. David, how you doing, boss?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be had.
I'm excited to have you because I'm in love with this series. As we talked a little bit off air, I had Jason on a couple weeks ago when I only got to see the trailer before you actually premiered. And now I've seen all 6 episodes and I'm wanting more, my friend. So much fun. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Fingers crossed for season 2. Yes, as you mentioned, there's so much happening in that. And yeah, it's amazing that you got to have the incredible Jason Gaffney on. So talented. I'm so lucky to be working with him. And like you said, this is an homage to The Odd Couple, but it's a bit of a homosexual buffet, if you will. There's a taste for everyone.
There you go. Agreed. Well, since it's your first time on the show, I'd like to get a little bit of background from our listeners. Please let everyone know where you grew up, what kind of kid were you, and what got you into the entertainment business.
Let's see. Well, I grew up in Florida. Don't hold it against me. I got out immediately. Kid. What kind of kid was I? I was a gay kid. I was a kid who I was literally, it's so funny. I did not have a kind of a theater mom, but I was a kid who immediately gravitated toward performing, even though I did kind of grow up in a performance family in a way. My father, as soon as he was old enough, actually he lied about his age and he ran away with the circus. He was in Ringling Brothers in something called King Charles Troupe. So they're basically the Harlem Globetrotters of the circus. So they basically do that, but on unicycles. It's a very, very honored black gay, not gay, that's me, a black cycling troupe. And my mother, we grew up in Sarasota, and she also was with the circus. She will tell you that she was on the sales end, but I saw some photos of her riding elephants. So yeah, so they were in the circus. They met there. And then eventually they did not want to have a little circus kid. So they split. And then we settled in Sarasota. And my mom was like, well, we're going to have a normal child. Until, cut to me sneaking my tap shoes in my backpack and trying to do shows in the produce section of the grocery store because they had a great wooden floor. And so I've always been an actor. I always, gravitated toward that. And I did it all through school and then high school. I signed my first contract with Disney the day before I graduated high school. And I moved there And I did shows for Disney all throughout college. And then I signed my first touring contract before college. I moved to New York for 12 years. And now I live in LA.
That's amazing. From quasi almost circus kid to big time actor.
I know.
Very cool. Now we talked about your proud, out and proud gay boy here. Talk about when did you first come out to yourself, maybe to your family or friends, and where did you first find your chosen family?
You know, interesting. Coming out to myself, I grew up in the South in the 80s. Lord. And I am a product of a biracial relationship. So my mother is a blonde and blue Southern belle from Georgia. And she was pretty much disowned by our entire family when she got pregnant with a black child, because in the South you didn't do that. So I say all this to say that there was a lot of struggle that my mom dealt with in having me. So, and again, Bible Belt South, religious. And so because of that struggle that my mom went through, early on, I think I realized that I was gay, but I struggled with being gay, not because I didn't think my mother would love me, but because I feel like there was the guilt of being gay, but then there was also the guilt of everything that my mother had been through already, just having me, this black child. I mean, you name it, it happened to us. From like the N-word being scratched into our car to, I mean, it's just, we've had it all. So there was a lot of guilt in that, of putting more on my mother, disappointing her and things like that. And so I came out, I won't say late, but I came out, I would say after college. I already knew, and I had a boyfriend then, and I had signed my first big tour, and right out of college, like I said, and we had made the adult decision. I was like, you know what, we're in this to win this. We're going to keep this thing going. And I left and I went to, star in the show. And I think it was maybe 2 weeks that I was into rehearsals, and he called me crying, and he's like, I don't think I can be away from you. We're going to break up. And needless to say, I was devastated. I was like, oh, so you waited until I was away from everything and everyone I know to, it was my first big professional gig to decide that you can't be away from me. And like all mothers of gay sons, my mom called me and she's like, how are you? How's the show? And I was like, it's great. And she's like, what is wrong with you? You are my son. I know something is wrong with you. And I was like, well, no, I'm fine. And she's like, you're a liar. Tell me what's wrong. I'm flying up there. And so I told her, you've met, I will not tell you his name, but I was like, you've met this person. This person is actually my boyfriend. I'm gay. We broke up. And she's like, honey, I know you're gay. She's like, I've always known you were gay. She's like, we'll talk about this later. But first of all, you're not quitting your show. She's like, I raised you stronger than that. She's like, we also need to sit down to discuss how you're going to provide me grandchildren, because that's still an option that I need from you. So that was kind of my coming out, She was amazing. My entire family was amazing with it. And so I was very, very lucky with that. And now my mom is amazing with my husband. Like I said, I've been very fortunate. I never went through the disowning. I never went through half the hardships that my mother went through, having me. And I think it's because of that. I think my mother went through so much, and she knows what it's like to have your family turn their back on you for, things that are beyond your control. So, yeah.
Good on her for that. That's an amazing story. And when you kind of first find your chosen family, and you found a boyfriend, but did you really kind of that come together when you got to New York, or how did that come about, finding others in your tribe, so to speak?
Yeah, I think I found others in my tribe early on because of being in the theater community and just being in the arts. I think that you automatically are met with, and you understand that. Like when I was Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge had a husband, and, Mrs. Fezziwig had a girlfriend. And so all of that was very prevalent. And so even in high school, just like every other little theater high school out there, we loved Rent, and we would camp out for Rent, and we would just be all over the streets of Tampa, seeing drag queens. And I had a friend, Melissa, who was on The Real World, and that was the year with Danny, and that was a big gay thing, and so I found my tribe of I think LGBT community early on in that, but that was before I was out. So I was like, oh, I love the gays. They're amazing. But it wasn't until I think afterward when I went to New York and I found that I was by myself in this huge city. And it's very lonely. You struggle. You have multiple jobs. And there was, for that first year, a lot of tears. New York is very different than the South, for better or worse. And I found myself working a lot with not a lot of money. And I found myself just at this kind of impasse with the career and also with myself. Not many people know this also, but I used to be over 400 pounds. I was around 460 pounds. So I lost over 200 pounds, or as I call them, two Olsen twins. I went from a Pumbaa to a Simba during that time in my 20s in New York City. And so there was so much change happening. And in that time, I really did find people who loved me, no matter my sexuality, no matter my size. And part of that tribe, funny to say, was Jason. I've known Jason for over a decade. We grew up together. And you just find those people that you can lean on and that understand you and that you find that are also going through the same things, and they understand. You can talk to them about things that you don't understand, relationships and things like that.
Well, like I said, I do a lot of research before I'm talking to people, and I saw one of your pictures on Broadway World, and you were a little bigger kid. I wasn't going to bring it up, but man, you and hubby together, though, are the pictures of men's health, my friend. I'm telling you. So gorgeous to these days. I so admire people that can go from that kind of a weight loss into the fitness. I lost a lot of weight. I got huge, lost a lot of weight, but I never was able to finish the job, so to speak. So what kind of motivated you to keep it going into the health and maintain this fitness that you have now?
I mean, every day it is an ongoing thing. Dieting, I didn't like to say dieting, but just like in general, living a healthier lifestyle every day is a ongoing struggle. And there's a reason that it is $1 billion industry, because it's not like other things that, like, where you can just kind of give things up cold turkey. Food, drinking, all those things are heavily tied into your lifestyle. They're tied into celebrations. They're tied into holidays. They're tied into, everything. And I would say you have to find this balance. So when I was at my most fit, I mean, there's this big, like, the New York Post did this crazy full page spread on me where I think I was at like a 2% body fat. And I will tell you, I was absolutely starving. I was starving. And at that time, I was making a lot of sacrifices that I don't know that I would make today. Like, I would absolutely not eat at a restaurant. I was going to other countries and I would not touch food because I didn't know what was in it. And I looked amazing, but I don't know that I was necessarily living. And the thing that kind of prompted that weight loss was, there's a lot of things. I have a hereditary heart disease that my mother had, that my grandmother had. It's called hypercholesterolemia. So my body hyperproduces cholesterol. So that was one thing. And heart health is so important, especially for, Black men and just everyone, just in general for men. So that was one thing. But I had a casting director, again, I won't say who, but there was a really big Broadway casting director, and I was doing really well, but I was out to drinks with a bunch of people, and he got really, really drunk, and I had seen him so many times. He called me in, and after I think his 6th martini, he was like, David, do you want to know why I'm never going to cast you? First of all, just put me in a grave right now. Just lay a lily on my chest. This is it. This is the end for me. And I was like, I would love to know that. maybe. And he's like, you know, you think that you are this hilarious comedic, you know, sidekick, hardy har character. He's like, you think you're a character actor. He's like, you're too tall. He's like, you command too much presence. He's like, when you walk into a room, he's like, everyone stares at you. He's like, you are not a fat comedic funny sidekick. He's like, you look like a leading actor who just let himself go. And so I was like, and so he's like, I won't say. It's literally the most backhanded compliment. So he's like, and so I'm not gonna cash you. He's like, you're almost 6'3". He's like, you're 6'3". He's like, I'm not gonna cash you against my leading man and have you pull focus. He goes, so you either lose the weight and become the leading man and this beautiful like model that you are. He's like, or he's like, you wait until you get a little older and you are James Earl Jones. He's like, but right now, he's like, it's really hard to put you anywhere, and that's why you're struggling. And so I just kind of went home and like threw all of my, you know, my my food away. I was like Goldie Hawn and Death Becomes Her. I was like, I'm never eating again, you know. But it really did. It was tough, and I wouldn't recommend that casting directors do that, because that was, you know. But it did kind of change the way that I looked at things, and it just, you know, it kind of made sense, because it did make sense. I was very tall, and I can't walk into a room and people not notice me in a way. But I think that's for better and for worse. And luckily now there are roles, and I look back on that, and you do not have to lose weight to be a leading man now. And thank God that we are getting to a place where that is no longer the case. And I love that. And we're seeing that. And sometimes I see that casting director, and he has, you know, cast some larger people in leading roles. And I'm like, look at you, growth, good for you. Yeah.
Nice. And we'll talk about that a little more after we watch the preview, because I love the diversity of your set in Marriage of Inconvenience. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I also wanted to kind of bond over, like I said, when I was stalking a bit, Rent myself. I'm seeing pictures of you with Tracie Thoms, with Rosario Dawson.
Oh, Tracie!
I mean, I'm 1 degree of separation away, just because one of my good friends, Emerson, was in the LA production of Rent. It was on TV.
Oh my gosh.
But I love that production. But you're like part of the team there. Goodness, you know a lot of people there.
I do. Tracie is, you know, a bestie of mine. I have been very fortunate that I spent a lot of time in New York and I have done a lot. I've worked with a lot of amazing people, and Tracie is one of the most amazing, down-to-earth, talented, kick-ass, amazing people that you can meet. And it's really just a testament to it. Like, there's no one in this industry on either coast who Tracie does not know if they have touched Broadway, and especially touched someone who is respected and an actor of color in this industry. And that is just a testament to who she is, what she stands for. No one throws a party like Tracie Thoms, like her birthday. And it's, it's just the who's who of everyone. And I honestly, it's so funny. I'm trying to think of like how we met. I don't even think that it was a Rent connection. I think that we very first met when she was doing, I think it was at Stick Fly, because I'm friends with Condola Rashad, who's another incredible actress. And we were backstage, and it's just like when Tracie and I met, we just clicked, and there's just people that you meet and they just become instant friends. And Tracie is like that with so many people, because again, she is just so lovable, and she's just so, in this career especially, you have to find people who are your cheerleaders. You have to find people who are honest with you, but you have to find people who believe in you. And Tracie is that for so many people. So yeah, if you can find people like that, hold on to them. And Tracie is one of those people for so many in this industry.
I love hearing that. And I have heard it by others too, so definitely, for sure. Let's go ahead and jump into the web series. Marriage of Inconvenience is the name. Like I said, it is streaming now on Deku. It premiered April 6th. If you get the Deku on your Prime Plus app, you can get it on Amazon Prime. But let's take a little sneak peek into the preview, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Yay!
All right, this is Marriage of Inconvenience with my special guest today, Mr. David Allen Singletary. Here we go.
Rule 1 of witness protection, trust no one.
How am I supposed to be married to this?
Whoa, married?
You are the Fultons, and you love each other so much, your lives depend on it.
I'm pretending to be your husband so as not to be murdered by a madman.
Did you really think a little piece of paper was going to keep me away, babe?
You work for me until I tell you you don't. Do you understand?
Lockdowns happen.
Calm down, Crisis. This place is fine.
I think we should think about setting some ground rules.
And I think it goes without saying that we will not now, nor will we ever have sex. Physical intimacy with me is earned, and not the sloppy byproduct of some horrendously mismanaged witness protection assignment.
I'm falling for Franklin and I'm screwing it up. I don't know what to do.
Let's just say you don't bring home your ecstasy dealer to meet your parents.
Mr. Fulton?
No, thank you.
Well, how do you feel about flan?
Babe.
Till death do us part, my fake husband.
All right, there you go. We are back, and that was the trailer for the fantastic new web series, Marriage of Inconvenience, starring my guest today, David Allen Singletary. It is out on Deku, the great streaming LGBTQ platform. Also on Amazon Prime. If you order Deku through there, you can see it right now. David, great series. Give a little bit of a synopsis of your character and how we talked about it being the odd couple. How would you describe the series, and how would you describe your character, Franklin?
Yeah, I mean, it is like you said, it is kind of like a modern day gay take on the odd couple. It's two completely opposite people who are forced to live together in a house under witness protection, and they are forced to pretend to be married. And again, they are completely opposite people. My character, I play Franklin, who is a type A, wound little tight English professor. But at his core, he is a very loving person. He just like I said, I think the thing about Franklin is that he's worked so hard to get where he is. And I think that he is always scared of letting that wall down, and scared of letting that respect be taken from him, I think, in a way, because it's so hard to gain that respect, I think, just in this community, in this body. And I jumped at the chance to play Franklin for so many reasons. We can talk about that later, but to play him. But I also, what I loved about Franklin early on, of course, there's all that fun, and there's hijinks, and it's so funny. And I always say Franklin will read you like a book. He will shade you like a mighty oak. He is the most shady kind of bitchy queen. You just don't even know. He reminds me of Julianne Sugarbaker, how she just kind of and then you're like, you don't even know what just happened. But I love that around episode 4, there is a change that happens with Franklin, and there's something that Jason wrote so beautifully that you get to see another side of Franklin. And as an actor, it was amazing to kind of get to see the depth of this character, because at first I told Jason, I was like, oh my God, they're going to think he's a bitch. He's so mean. And, I was like, oh. And then, this flip happens. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love Franklin. And I love this character. I love Owen and I love Franklin. And I hope that when people watch them, they'll love them as much as I love them.
Oh, they definitely will. I mean, he is very driven, but he does have that heart of gold that comes through. And as I said before, you and Jason have this fantastic chemistry. You said you had, I didn't know it was 10 years. I know you've known each other for a while, but what was that relationship like on set? Was it very easy to fall into that? Because you kind of have that, it changes over the course of it, but you can always see the underlying kind of respect there.
Yeah. I think respect is a great word because, I love and respect Jason so much on so many levels as a person. He is one of the most amazing, kind people and friends that you could ever want. And I can't imagine my life without him, just off camera. But as an artist, I can't even tell you all the things he does for this production outside of writing, directing, and acting, starring, and getting to share the screen with him, literally making the set pieces and the art for this. I mean, he's incredible. He's a Renaissance man. But it's funny. What is funny, I think that a lot of people don't realize, is that off camera, our roles are totally flipped. Jason is wound so tight. He is the most so I knew that with wearing all those hats, getting to set, having to make sure that everyone here is getting to set, and also everyone's being safe, lest you forget that we were still doing this on the, it's still a pandemic, and especially on a ULB or ultra low budget indie production, you do not want something to happen concerning COVID, because that can really mess things up. So he got to set, and it was just every day, if anything would go wrong, and things did, he would just, and I would see that look in his eye, and I was like, okay, because my husband calls me chronically happy. I am always happy. I'm always smiley. I am the gentle giant. So I would just kind of go there, and I would see that to him, and I would be like, Jason, it's okay. It's me and you. I would, and he would be like, do you need, and I'm like, Jason, it's me. I've been doing theater for my entire life. I'm like, I already memorized the entire script. What scene are we going to? I got it. What do you need from me? I got it. And I would just bring him down, and I'd call him down. So I think having that sort of dynamic between the two of us, or if he's like, oh, we have to go an hour later. I'm like, what? I'm fine. What else am I doing today? It's me and you, and I think just having that between the two of us, and also the trust between the two of us, because we were going so fast. I mean, I think we filmed all of this in 10 or 12 days, and I was flying back and forth all over the place. And so I didn't have a lot of time to look back at any of these playbacks. We were just going. So for me, I just had to put a ton of trust that we got the shot, that Jason and Naisha and Ed and all of the production were going to make us look great, and that when they say they got it, they really got it, because I didn't see it. And I had a ton of costume changes, all hot, by the way, sweating in the middle of June, in a house with no air conditioning. And so I would just run to the next costume change and changing my mic, and I'm like, was that good? Was that good? He's like, it's great, move, we gotta go. And so we worked so well together, but I think a lot of it was just me calming him down, and him be like, we're gonna do it. But when you have that sort of relationship with one another, and you have that sort of trust and respect, I think that that's what makes or breaks a production. You have to be friends, you have to have some sort of connection and some sort of chemistry, and be excited to be there.
Right. No, agreed. And you need that kind of someone. Web series, I've interviewed creators of web series and actors of web series for all my 6 years doing this, and it's a crazy business. You're doing a little bit of everything, like you said, very short budget, very short time frame, and everyone's doing after you finish that scene, we go cater this and etc. and all that. So there's a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And we ended up, like I said before, we ended up having, because I don't know if Jason talked about our DP and kind of what happened with her early, and her getting COVID. And so she was basically DPing, which is DP is the director of photography. She was doing all of that via Zoom. And so we had different people coming in all the time. And so we ended up block shooting, which means that we would shoot everything from one side, one angle, all at once. So we didn't get to do a lot of the same scene. It was like, okay, we're going to do this scene, all from this angle, so that we don't have to change the cameras. And so there were so many times when I was like, what is this? And thank goodness we know. Or there was times when Jason would have to step out of the scene. That happened a ton of times. If you watch in most of the time when we're in the fort, if there's any singles, I'm talking to a tennis ball most of the time. Jason is not there. Like, there's no one there most of the time. And, and we're block shooting. So Jason's like, I was like, I don't know where I was looking. This is a totally different scene, different day. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. But that's part of the fun of it.
Right. And you briefly mentioned it. I mean, you, besides your acting, you and your husband both work in the airline, so you are out of town a lot. I didn't realize you'd be bopping back and forth like that.
Oh, yeah. Like, I was kind of all over the place. And we, that was kind of in response to the pandemic as well. Like, my husband is also an actor. He's done a bunch of stuff. He was in House and iCarly and all this other kind of stuff. And he kind of wanted to take a break from that. But my deciding to do the airline industry was a direct answer to the pandemic. When the pandemic happened, everything closed, probably closed. All of the TV studios closed. And a lot of people in this industry might not, you understand. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand who aren't in this industry might not get that if you don't work a certain amount of weeks or months or whatever in the industry and then under a union contract, you lose your health care. So everyone lost their health care. My husband and I got married. We were looking into adoption and things like that. Turns out they don't love to let you adopt a child if their health and dental is going to be Colgate and NyQuil. Who knew? So I was like, oh, okay. So what can I do in the interim? What can I do in the meantime? And so I found that there's one airline that has no minimums, meaning that I can fly as little or as much as I would like. I can take off a month, 2 months, 3 months, and I will always keep my health care and I will always keep my benefits, my 401k, etc. And so that was a win to me. And we were on a break from this. We didn't know when we were going to come back with Marriage of Inconvenience. I had booked it a year ago. So I went to training for this just so that I could maintain healthcare at all times and never have to worry about that again, because who knows what could happen. And then I was just finished training, and then Jason made the call, oh, we're ready to film. And I had like a month. And so I was flying and I had a new job and I was doing this and it worked out so beautifully. They were so great to me during that. Both companies were. So I'm very lucky. So now I am an actor and I have healthcare at all times.
There you go. I love that. Yeah, I mean, I was the same thing. I was in my 5th season back in 2020, and all of a sudden, no one interviewed because no one's doing anything. Everyone's sitting at home, so I don't have anyone to talk to, and I felt so bad for everybody.
What a nightmare. I mean, to see people like major stars not be able to go to, the doctor, like you can't get a health checkup. Like that's, I just can never be in that position. And it's hard what you have to give up and the things that people don't think about. People don't think about the fact that you can be on Broadway or you can be on a major network television show. And if that show cancels, that suddenly you can't go to the doctor unless you're paying out of pocket for, a private insurance. And Lord forbid you have a pre-existing condition or things like that. And then there's also adoption and things like, that's a whole other thing. It's very difficult. They look into every part of your life, and insurance is very important and things like that. So it's crazy. Adulting is hard. 1 star, do not recommend.
Exactly, right? It's not for sissies. Adulting is not for sissies.
It is not.
Oh my God, goodness. And you touched on it a bit. Let's talk, because you have this one acting coach or casting director say that you had this type of leading man characteristic, but you've also talked about in the past that being even though you're a big muscular Black man, you're kind of cast as the bouncer, as the security guard. Talk about what it's like to actually see yourself in these kind of roles, Marriage of Inconvenience, and what it's like to get something like this. How hard is that?
Yeah, I mean, not just the bouncer and the security guard. I mean, I had a situation where there is a really prevalent acting group in New York City specifically. Now, I will preface this with saying that New York City, if you're doing TV and film, a lot of that is geared toward kind of gritty urban crime dramas. You know, that's your SVUs, your Blue Bloods, that sort of thing. So that it does lend itself to that. But I got into this in front of this casting director who wanted to see me. And you kind of have this, it's a career consultation where you go in and they sit with you and they're like, okay, they're going to plan your career for you. And it's a big honor because they want to work with you. And I walked in and again, chronically happy, all smiles. I was so excited. I'm like, hi, my name is David. She's, don't speak. I've got it. You're a convict. I was like, I'm sorry, pardon? You're a prisoner. You're a convict and a prisoner. And I was like, I have a degree, madam. I was like, I am a jovial gay man who likes Crate and Barrel. What are you talking about? You know, so that is, and again, I say this all the time. I'm not saying that I would not play those roles. If you would love to cast me as a convict or a prisoner in a major TV or film, please, I will take it. And I don't disrespect those roles. Those are actual roles that need to be told and they should be respected. What I'm saying that is just because I am a 6'3", you know, muscular black man built like a brick wall does not mean that I can only play a convict or a prisoner. There are people who look like me who are also doctors and lawyers and professors and gay fathers, daddies. You know, and so the fact that and she even went on to tell me that in castings that I should not speak, that I should speak is the least that I can, and I should show less personality because I would muddy casting directors' view of me because they wouldn't be able to see past my sunshine. It was rough. It was rough. And so having the opportunity to be called and say, hey, we have a role. He is a English professor. He's well respected. He's gay. And he's not like dying of AIDS and he's not thrown out of his house and disowned by his parents and suffering. He's just gay. And that's just who he is. It's a part of him. No big deal. We're not even going to really talk about that much. I don't even know what's a good, magnanimous. It was incredible. So when I read that and I read the role, I just wanted to, I didn't even care. I was like, I don't care what the pay is. I don't care what the dates are. I don't care who else is, you know, in it. I'm in. I'm all in. And you know, now it's premiered. And I got to say, I've already been getting messages from people who are thanking me for being able to see reflections of themselves on screen because there just aren't that many. I mean, now we're closer to that. I mean, we have these amazing examples of gay actors, proud gay actors who of color. You know, we have Billy Porters. We have entire things that weren't there before. But it's amazing that we are making this progress, and I'm so thankful to indie films. I'm so thankful to people like Jason who are writing these roles because it really does make a difference in our community and makes a difference in the lives of people who aren't living in California or New York to be able to turn on the TV and see themselves reflected back in positive ways.
Exactly. And good on you for portraying that. I mean, it is such a positive role for everybody to see. And talk about, I mentioned it earlier, and I talked to Jason about it. What's it like going onto a set like that is so LGBTQ inclusive through actors, through crew, and trying to get as much as possible? That's got to be real fun working with you. Have you had anything like that before?
No, you know, it's funny. It is so fun. It's so freeing because you don't have any sort of fear or trepidation surrounding being who you are and just being free to kind of joke and be comforted in your space. And I think that is also reflects in performance and reflects in just the ease and comfortability with being on camera as well, because you don't have that just kind of uncomfortable nature of there are times when people are in different states of undress and there's different romantic scenes between men, and you're not worrying if the the camera guy is like, ugh, there's comments going to be made at crafty. There's not going to be weird comments. I mean, there have been times when it's like, oh, if my husband comes by set, or if I say, and I wear 2 rings. If I say my husband, because I will never hide my light under a bushel. I am upfront about any of those things, whether I'm in any space. I always say my husband. I always say, I'm an out gay man. It took a lot to get here. I'm never gonna deny that. But to not have to think twice about that is immeasurable. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, like I said, you and Jason both did phenomenal portrayals of your roles. And I don't want to give too much away, but as you said, as it kind of goes through the 6 episodes, you do see a shift in their characterizations a bit. And a lot of that is done through flashback. I love that technique. And you learn a lot about it. How was that to see that, the finished product of that?
It was amazing because, again, so much of that is shot in different places and different locations that you don't get to see. And there's so many things that it's weird because I didn't get to see a lot of that playback, but it's also weird to see so many things that you forget that you didn't get to see. Like there's that entire bedroom scene. I have a sleep mask on, so I had no idea what Jason was doing next to me. I have no idea. I'm blinded that entire time. And so it was funny to see all these faces that he was making. And yeah, all of these crazy flashbacks, even with, Jordan, or to get to see the other character developments that I didn't get to see, like Jason in his scenes that I wasn't there for. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And again, yeah, as the character developed, I always say that we give them the funny, we give them the slapstick, we give them all the funny, but it's really great to see all of the beauty in the silences there, because there are times when half of acting is reacting. In fact, I would say maybe 80% of acting is reacting. So there's so many times when I've kind of been in my own thing and I'm not really able to see Jason's eyes or see his reactions to things, or even see what the camera caught what I was doing. But there's so many times when we've been internalizing things, and you'll just see little looks or little glances or little kind of heartbreaking moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, that red, they caught that. They saw that. There's one of the last scenes. I don't want to give anything away, but I want to say the last scene of the entire series, or the entire season, there's a thing where we're about to leave, and there's like one look that I give, and I did it without thinking, but I was like, oh my gosh, and there's no words, it's just this little thing, and I was like, that's so amazing that the DP caught that, and that the lighting was right for that, and whatever. And funny thing, that day we had it was a hot mess of rescheduling everything, but I cried. There's some upsetting things where I had to cry for 10 hours. Something happens. And because of rescheduling, they had to move it around, and they were like, hey, David, we're so sorry. The next shot, you're going to a party. And my eyes were a hot mess. And the makeup artist was like, what? And she just like running, and she's like, Elite, I love you. She always held me down. I had fans all over me because it was so hot. But she like ran and threw like spoons in the freezer, freezers in the spoon, like spoons in the freezer. And she's like trying to find all this stuff because I had been crying like full on, Viola Davising for 12 hours. And the next I was supposed to be going to a party. So if you look at my eyes in that, they are real puffin stuff. Yeah. And it's because that was the same day that I had been weeping all day. So it's just so funny to watch those things back and see like, oh, I remember that. That was the day that I wept.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because yeah, we are talking about that twist in the relationship and that ending scene. There's a look, and I had the look written on my paper here, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So very exciting. Season 2's got to happen, because now we're on a sort of a cliffhanger, so to speak. Jason says he has it all written out. Do you ask him what's going to happen, or do you just kind of, what's your process? Do you like to wing it, or no?
I don't. I feel like he's given me kind of little hints and things like that, but I also know that with his process and with the artistic process in general, that things could change. So I'm hesitant to ask him this early on what's going to happen, because it could change, and I get scared to get wed to anything, because what if I really love a story arc and then that doesn't happen, and I don't want to. I don't want to go into it with any sort of disappointment. Not that I could, because I would love any season 2. So no, I feel like I'm going to go into it like you guys. I'm not going to know. And in this, I really didn't know. We early on had a read, which was another thing. It was amazing. Jason had reads, and he brought in a bunch of people of color. He brought in people from all different walks, just kind of gauging if he was going in the right direction. Also, he understood that he was writing in my voice, which I feel like might have been easier for him because he's known me for so long, and I'm one of his best friends. But he also wanted to make sure that he was able to write in a tone for a person of color that wouldn't be offensive or just completely off the mark, because he acknowledged that he wasn't, and that's so amazing and so important. So and even in the beginnings, there have been some there were changes to the end. So I'm just going to let him do the amazing thing he do, and wait for the finger crossed that season 2 is greenlit and that people are watching season 1. The feedback has been amazing. There's been so many screenshots. Like, so many people have sent me things in their living rooms. It's so funny because you do these shows, you'll do these off-Broadway runs or these national tours, and you see all these people applauding, and your friends and family are like, oh yeah, I forgot, I didn't, but then you do something like this, and you're in your friends' houses. You can do one random like freaking commercial, and everyone in the world's like, oh, you're on this commercial, this hemorrhoids, yay. You can bust your tuchus for 8 shows a night and people forget.
Very true, very true.
Such is life.
What anything you have on the burner right now besides waiting for season 2 on this? Anything you're looking into, scripture reading, or would you consider to play again? Because that's a lot of time.
Yeah, I haven't. You know what? I haven't. Theater in LA is really difficult, because it's just not the same as New York. It's not the same monetarily. I wish it were. I really miss the stage. I really love, and I wouldn't rule it out, because like I said, I missed the stage. There is one project, I'm not allowed to talk about it just yet, but there is one that I am on hold for. But I'm just kind of in that stage of working with my manager and deciding what's a good thing to go forward on. But there is one that I am on hold for, so hopefully that's good. But I also have kind of told them that this is kind of a baby for me, so hopefully that wouldn't conflict. And if it did, I'd be like, no. So yeah,
that we can get dueling processes that kind of work for you. Another thing we have in common that I'm going to have to do for you is I saw that you're a big Gilmore Girls fan, which I am. Huge Gilmore Girls. One of my regular guests on the show actually wrote a season of the Gilmore Girls.
No!
He's a big-time writer. He wrote for Roseanne. He wrote for Golden Girls. He wrote for Gilmore Girls. And he does a lot of directing for Fringe Fest and stuff in LA, and I think you guys have to meet each other. So
I am OP tampon-cessed, no applicator with Gilmore Girls. And
he goes to Fringe Fest every year in Connecticut. I mean, he's a big
am deadzo. Like, I want to say at the end of this month, where I haven't done like the WB. I know that they do like a Luke Steiner situation, but obsessed. And what's funny is I had never even seen an episode of Gilmore Girls until I was well into my late 20s. And I was it's fine. And I was at a party at the Second Stage Theater, and Kelly Bishop was in the show there, and we all had a lot of martinis, the cast of Gilmore Girls was there, and so Lauren Graham was there, many martinis, and she was in rehearsals. This is funny. This is a great Gilmore Girls story. So she was in rehearsals for Guys and Dolls, because she was about to go into Guys and Dolls, and she was freaking out. And I didn't want to tell her I'd never seen Gilmore Girls. And so we're all there. Kelly Bishop, they had just done a revival of A Chorus Line, so lots of tea on that. Kelly Bishop was going in because, original Sheila. So Lauren Graham, Martina, freaking out. She was like, I don't even know. I'm singing. I don't even know. So at the end of this, she was like, I just need a friend in the audience. Pulls out $200 bills and was like, just buy a ticket to opening night. I just need to see you there. Hands me $200 and was like, and for me to buy a ticket to opening night of Guys and Dolls. And I did. And then at the stage door, she was like, you came. And that was the last time I've talked to Lauren Graham. But isn't that funny?
That's fantastic. I have to introduce you to Stan. I haven't had Stan back on since I started again, but he is a miracle worker and a great writer.
He is. Golden Girls and Gilmore Girls, I just am sweating just thinking about it.
Him and his partner just wrote a screenplay called Silver Foxes, which is a Golden Girls for gay men that Michael Urie produced in Texas this past summer.
What?
Yeah, no, he's
come
a
on.
big
That's
thing.
amazing. Is Anderson Cooper starring?
I just want him to give me a little piece of his carpeting because he's had so many great reads at his home that with Everybody's Anybody. I think for Silver Foxes, he had George Takei and Leslie Jordan and everybody doing this preview read through. It's amazing. He's an amazing
Leslie, make you rest.
So, yes, exactly.
I almost wore my Leslie Jordan T-shirt today. I have the it's like a pink T-shirt with his face on. It says "Well, shit."
Love Leslie.
My goodness.
All right. Well, I could talk to you forever. We're going to have you back very often, my friend. Please let all my listeners know where they can find you. Give them your social media, and we'll wrap this up here.
Yes. You can find me across all social media platforms. It's at David Singletary. That's at DavidSingletary. It's like single Tary. And my husband and I, if you want to check us out, we also have a travel vlog. If you want to see us go all across the world, that's on YouTube. It's Booze Cruise with a Z. BOOSCRUIZE. You can check us out. We're all over the world there too. So yeah, check me out. I will always respond to you on Twitter and Instagram and all those things. If you want to see me, tits out over there.
There you go. That's our next interview. I got to have you and hubby on. I love talking travel. I'm a travel fiend. So.
Oh my gosh, yes. All the cruising, all the traveling, all that.
Month or so. I like
it. Gosh.
Well,
yes,
David
let's talk travel.
Thanks so much for being on the Left of Str8 Show. Guys, be sure to check out Marriage of Inconvenience, now streaming on Deku and Amazon Prime's Deku. And David Singletary, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Stay on the line for me, guys. Be sure to look out next week for a special 5 questions with David. And we'll be back. You're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.